Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to tear down some pretty towering American myths. We've all seen the classic Hollywood westerns, right? But what was life, and more specifically, the terrifying fight to just stay alive, really like for early pioneers? Spoiler alert, the actual history is way more intense than any movie you've ever seen.
Now take early politicians like Daniel Webster. He basically used the log cabin as the ultimate PR tool, a symbol of honesty, hard work, and that pure American spirit. He leaned hard into this idea of a humble cabin to defend William Henry Harrison and build up his own tough pioneer street cred. Writers like Henry David Thoreau completely romanticized these rough-hewn structures to represent a virtuous, simple life.
And honestly, this origin story is so deeply ingrained in our culture. Think about it. 7 actual U.S. presidents claimed this quintessential pioneer beginning. Now, William Henry Harrison bragged about it even though he wasn't actually born in one, but these 7 guys, they really did start their lives in these structures. But here's the catch. While a log cabin makes for an absolute killer political origin story, the reality of getting sick inside one was a total nightmare.
Section 1. Medicine in the Unknown.
So, picture this. You're out in the wilderness in the early 19th century. Medical science literally had no concept of germ theory yet. No antibiotics, no anesthesia, zero understanding of sanitation. Today, we know exactly how germs spread illness, but back then, the frontier was just this vast, deadly unknown. Without knowing what actually caused diseases, healing was basically pure guesswork.
Enter the pioneer physician. These doctors were absolute road warriors. They'd ride horseback day and night, pushing across swamps and swollen streams just to reach their patients. We're talking 12 to 20 miles a day, sometimes getting lost in the woods and just sleeping on the ground. And when they finally got to you, they had almost nothing to work with. They were relying entirely on basic intuition, feeling your pulse, checking your tongue, looking at your skin, using just a handful of crude tools from their saddlebags.
Section 2. The Age of Heroic Medicine.
This brings us to a medical philosophy that is honestly pretty terrifying. Doctors back then didn't believe in just resting and letting a disease run its course. No way. They took a wildly aggressive, interventionist approach called heroic medicine. They truly believed that to restore the body's balance, you had to forcefully flush or purge the disease right out of the patient.
So how did they do that? Well, they had 4 standard flushing methods, and they were basically designed to shock the body into recovery through sheer physical trauma. First up, bleeding. They'd use a lancet or literal leeches to drain out specific amounts of blood. Second was purging with incredibly harsh laxatives. Third, emetics, to induce violent vomiting. And if that wasn't enough, they used blistering, applying harsh chemical compounds to intentionally cause second-degree burns. Why? Because they thought the pus from the blister was proof the disease was leaving the body.
If you think that sounds bad, let's talk about their go-to purgative, calomel. Unbeknownst to these doctors, calomel was literally mercury chloride. It caused horrible mercury poisoning. We're talking excessive drooling, lost teeth, and the actual rotting of the jawline. Horrifyingly, doctors completely misunderstood this. They called it petalization and saw this rotting as absolute proof the medicine was working. In reality, it was destroying the patients from the inside out.
Naturally, this intense physical toll sparked a massive cultural pushback. People started circulating satires and jokes, basically saying that if you took an alternative cure, you'd die of the disease. But if you took the heroic cure, you'd die of the treatment. The public was finally waking up to the fact that these massive, violent doses were incredibly dangerous.
Section 3. The Alternative Medicine Rebellion. As a direct rejection of all that bleeding and blistering, pioneers started turning to botanical treatments, mostly because, well, they usually didn't hurt you. A guy named Samuel Thompson capitalized on this, developing safer herbal remedies, like his famous lobelia mixture and therapeutic steam baths. This idea of self-medication spread like wildfire during the Jacksonian period. It perfectly fit that independent, self-made pioneer mindset. People wanted to take their health into their own hands instead of suffering under a doctor's lancet.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how this rebellion actually laid the groundwork for modern pharmacology. Unlike the heroic practitioners who were just guessing with massive doses, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann developed the homeopathic approach. He actually tested drugs and carefully recorded their effects. He pushed for small, diluted doses, fresh air, and proper food. Everything was systematically observed and evaluated. It was a total game changer compared to the sheer trauma of heroic medicine.
Section 4. From Folklore to Science.
To really understand why things were so extreme, you have to look at the context. The top killers in the 1840s were fast-acting infectious diseases. You got sick and you went downhill fast, which made these rapid, aggressive treatments seem totally necessary. Pioneers rarely faced today's slow-moving degenerative diseases like heart disease or cancer. Their intense physical labor actually protected their hearts quite a bit, but mostly, the infectious diseases simply got to them first.
So, despite the massive failures and truly gruesome treatments we've talked about, we shouldn't just write this period off. The 1800 to 1840 era was actually a vital precursor to modern science. The bond forged between those exhausted, isolated doctors and their desperate patients was incredibly real. They were navigating the absolute unknown together, and the fierce debates between all these different medical factions, that's exactly what sparked the drive for better research and clinically controlled testing later in the century.
As we look back at the extreme lengths these pioneers went to for a cure, it leaves us with an important reflection. Human nature really hasn't changed all that much, has it? When we're faced with terrifying, unknown diseases today, we still see massive debates over treatments, pushes for alternative medicine, and a deep desire to take control of our own health. So I'll leave you with this. How do feelings of isolation, fear, and the unknown still shape our pursuit of health in the modern world? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a totally new perspective on the true grit of the American pioneer.